Arthritis patients report substantial improvements following cannabis use. So rheumatoid and psoriatic arthritis are autoimmune disorders that progressively destroy joints, causing chronic and often debilitating pain, which drastically impacts quality of life. Osteoarthritis is more common in older patients, whereas rheumatoid and psoriatic arthritis begin earlier in life. Approximately 1.3 million people with rheumatoid arthritis and 500,000 people with psoriatic arthritis are in the US. These patients suffer sooner and longer. Novel pharmaceutical drugs have been developed for autoimmune arthritis, yet it's challenging to fully control the complex pain experience, leading patients to seek alternative treatments. In a collaborative effort, scientists at the University of Central Florida College of Medicine, the University of Alabama School of Medicine, and the University of Tennessee Health Science Center conducted a cross-sectional study of patients visiting an outpatient rheumatology clinic in Orlando, Florida, from October 2019 to March 2020. 247 patients with rheumatoid arthritis and 44 patients with psoriatic arthritis completed a survey of specific questions regarding the use of cannabinoids, their forms, sources, methods, side effects, and perceived efficacy. 17% of rheumatoid patients and 12% of psoriatic patients were using cannabinoids. Most of the rheumatoid patients inhaled, while most of the psoriatic patients used topical. These patients noted a substantial decrease in pain, improvements in joint stiffness, fatigue, and swelling with cannabinoid use. The survey was taken voluntarily and results were anonymous. Patients were given an iPad at the clinic and directed to a room where they completed the survey. They were asked to recall their pain before and after cannabinoid use. Most patients reported purchasing cannabinoids from a dispensary and consuming less than 200 milligrams per day. They were not asked to make a distinction between consuming THC and CBD. Their concerns regarding the use of cannabinoids were in order of importance: side effects, cost, safety, addiction, and hassle. This study has many limitations. Two major ones are the lack of a control group and that patients were asked to recall the effects of cannabis. The authors concluded, our findings contribute to the growing literature on cannabinoid therapy for arthritis symptoms, emphasizing the need for continued research to optimize treatment strategies for affected individuals. So I think this study is lame. Why? Because it's just saying the same thing. Because of Schedule 1 restrictions, this study is lame. The scientists were not able to put their hands on the products, which is why patients had to recall what they used. We don't know if the patients were smoking type 1, type 2, or type 3 cannabis. Were they dabbing or vape cartridges or using vape cartridges? Is there a terpene profile that's more effective than others? Rather than learn more specifically what helps, science keeps running in place and having to conclude that we need more study. When California was voting for adult use, I warned folks that patients would be forgotten, but it was more important for people to have their weed than to further the medical use paradigm. Today, we regret passing adult use Prop 64 in California, and patients continue to suffer from the lack of good study. Well, we're doing it again with Schedule 3 versus descheduling. People would rather prevent scientists from studying cannabis than to take an incremental step with Schedule 3. Shame on those who are afraid of losing access to their weed, so they choose to let patients suffer from the lack of study. So this lame study is not the scientist's fault, it's the fault of those who can only think for themselves. This is Dr. Jerome Talleyrand with I@9 News.
Man, I like that you said that this study is lame, Dr. T, calling them what it is. Like,
oh, it is.
Yeah, it's just what
Gloves
it is.
are off.
Yeah, that's right. What do you think?
Study. It looks good, but it's just a bad study. It's
just
not saying anything new that we've not known for 20 years already. that cannabis helps people with arthritis. And we've all known that. And it's just saying, yeah, cannabis helps people with arthritis. We got to do a better study. But they can't do a better study.
Isn't that just more waste? And what's the difference between
bureaucracy?
It's not more waste. It's a way to get grant money.
Yeah.
It's a way to siphon funds and give somebody a paycheck to do something and tell us, thank you, Captain Obvious, for telling us what we already know.
Exactly. It's more government waste.
Lame duck studies during a lame duck presidency. Imagine that.
Come on, Johnny.
Get out of here. Get it,
Elon
girl.
Musk in there. And Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah, I can't wait. Team Doge.
My congestion's clearing and my attitude's coming back.
Oh, my goodness.
We've studied long enough. It's time to smoke.
Oh,
Are you cutting it out or are you leaving?
Study, but I'm proposing for better study. I want to know whether a type 2 is better than a type 1 for psoriatic arthritis. I want to know, or rheumatoid arthritis.
I'm confused. I'm confused by that, Dr. T. What's the difference between a type 1, a type 2, and a type 3 type of cannabis?
So type 1 is what most people are smoking out there. High THC, low CBD.
Just whatever's out there in the streets.
No, it's a ratio. So cannabis is best expressed as a ratio of THC to CBD rather than THC alone. You see that problem because look at what's happening with hemp. They just classify the product based on one compound, but it's really the relationship between the THC and CBD that makes most sense. And that's how botanists have always looked at the plant, at the chemotype of the plant in ratio. The first ratio is type 1. That's what all you guys are smoking. There's type 2, like Harlequin. I don't know if you guys know.
Oh, yeah, high CBD varietals.
Not high, 1-to-1, because Charlotte's Web has high CBD. That's different.
Got it.
Right?
Okay, but I've always known Harlequin as a CBD weed. Just, it's always been sold as a CBD weed.
Well, yeah, because that's what the streets call it. But the scientists call it, accurately, they call it type 2.
Okay.
And type 3, and Harlequin is different than Charlotte's Web or ACDC or Ringo's Gift, right? Type 3 is 20-to-1 ratio of CBD to THC, right? It's what some people might call hemp. But if the THC is at 0.4%, then it's marijuana. It doesn't make sense. But it's still a type 3 to the scientist because the ratio is really what matters.
Got it.
Type 1, type 2, type 3.
Interesting.
Dr. T, Dr. T, I have a question.
Sure.
Is there a type 4 for those plants with other ratios of other cannabinoids like CBN or CBA?
There's been a type 4 and 5 proposed. They're just they're not out there yet. People are not really so, if you're going into a store and wanting to choose your weed, you want to know whether it's a type 1, type 2, or type 3. Some people who are like, the weed's too strong for me, you want a type 2 because it's more balanced THC, CBD.
It's a mids market.
1,
it's a mids market.
Well, mids is the quality of the flower. You can have a good quality type 2 and a bad quality.
Okay. All right. I think that's fair. I think that's a fair thing. What were you going to say? Go ahead.
Yeah, terps are a different story, right?
What were you going to say, Dr. Mark? You're going to chime in right there before Jesse's question?
No, I was just going to make sure that it's clear that the convention is that it's alphabetical order, so C before T. So whenever you talk about a ratio, it's always CBD to THC and not the other way around. People used to get this confused and put the THC in front of the CBD, but it's alphabetical order. So when you talk about 20-to-1, Dr. T, it's 20 CBD to 1 THC, right?
And that's a type 3.
Got it.
Yeah, that's the convention.
That is fascinating. Wow, I never knew that.
About weed. That was amazing.
Yeah, I just got a wrinkle in my brain.
I know, Jason, because you've been living in these Hemp Bill 2018 rules where nothing is nothing.
I mean, as Dr. T would call it, I've been living in these streets. You know what I'm saying? Nothing. As Dr. T would call it, I'd be living in these streets, bro. You know what I'm saying? The street Harlequin.
Did you say you would rather support Schedule 3 because of the medical research capability than deny it and keep it Schedule 1?
Correct.
But obviously, the even better solution would be to deschedule it. Correct.
Correct.
Yeah, we need to deschedule this plant. Rescheduling is total BS and just handing the industry to the pharmaceutical industry.
It changes the banking system. It gets more research in. It's not total BS.
It's total BS.
It's just that descheduling is better, but It's not total BS.
I'd rather keep it illegal.
Well, Dr. T, don't you think that it will change the nature of the industry in the sense that you would have to have a pharmaceutical Schedule 3 manufacturing license to produce the product in a Schedule 3?
Because if dispensary owners right now have to have a pharmaceutical license to sell.
No, they don't. There's no dispensary that has a pharmaceutical license.
Hold on, let him finish.
When you reschedule, there won't be one either, right? It's not
there will.
Change that.
Yeah, it will. Yeah, it is.
No, you're bringing it to more access, not less access. So you're not going to restrict the use of it right now it's the most restrictive, Schedule 1. Schedule 3 is less restrictive. So it's going to be easier to access, not harder to access.
I see how you're.
I think it's going to bring the FDA in where the FDA doesn't have
FDA does
right now.
FDA is in.
No, they're not. No, they're not. Yeah. FDA has no jurisdiction over Schedule 1 drugs.
No, they're the ones who, if you want to use a Schedule 1 drug, you need to first get permission from the Department of Justice and then run your studies by the FDA. That's the way it is. And you can do studies on Schedule 1 drugs. It's just very hard. Mm-hmm. But the FDA is involved in those studies. They're not out because it's Schedule 1. They're more involved.
I understand what you're saying, Dr. T.
Just like the snitches. They're around, man. You might not know they're there.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with this. I don't know if I necessarily agree with this analysis, but I do respect Dr. T's opinion on this 100%, and I understand exactly what he's saying and where he's coming from. I'm just not sure if in practicality that's how it will play out. I'm not sold on that one yet. But
what I have to say is, don't be afraid and think about the patients.
Oh, I'm not afraid. I do care about the patients, and that's why I want to make sure that they're getting the right access. And I believe, from how I understand drug laws and drug enforcement of laws and everything else like that, because I have been enforced upon for many years. I just don't see Schedule 3 as a win. I'd rather leave it Schedule 1 until we get full descheduling, because Schedule 3 is just giving it all over to the pharmaceutical industry, because they already have drug preclusion on CBD and THC, and they regulate everything by the molecule as opposed to the compound. And therefore, once that happens, the FDA, all they have to do is just start sending letters to everyone saying, hey, these are illicit products. These compounds are finding our thing, because we basically have jurisdiction over that now.
There you go, Jason Beck.
People can grow themselves to Schedule 3 is going to fail miserably with the trap winning all day long. We want to keep a trap market. Move it to Schedule 3.
Yes.
No one is going to get a doctor's prescription and go buy some mids grown by a fucking pharmaceutically owned MSO at Walgreens. Period.
Yep.
Got to get on a flight. Love
hey,
you all.
Dr. Mark, you have a fantastic trip home back to the East Coast, man.
Type 7.
Much
Type
love.
7.
Yeah.